Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to the house of David, which is the elect. And just coming back with the another news briefing, just happening onto some current events. As we continue to watch, as well as stay prayed up, so that as these days continue to become more and more perilous and more evil, that we can, find mercy and be worthy to escape the things that are coming upon our earth. Because as we're seeing, the Lord is working, right? And we're seeing the end of this devil's age, and everything that, was prophesied, to happen, we're seeing, manifest, right? So, as we, continue to be patient, right? We, give the warning, sound the alarm as long as we, are able to, right? Because we do know that the time is coming where, the hearing of the word of the Lord will, come to an end, right? The famine of the hearing of the word of the Lord. But for now, we continue to go into the news and prophecy to, make confirming the souls of the disciples, right? And this is, our reasonable service. So getting right into it, right? I got a few posts that I wanted to just, briefly touch on, right? On a high level. First thing first, as you see here, it says President Trump says the United States no longer needs NATO. Okay. And, he's been saying this, having a sentiment for a while. However, just recently, you had a plethora of various different NATO countries that denied supporting operations against Iran, right? Denied the United States Trump administration supporting operations against Iran, and also other Asian, countries that are so-called allied with America, right? And we know that a lot of these Confederates, right, or should I say the Confederateship that America has with these countries is not, really based off of a friendly, friendly relationships, right? A lot of it is based off of America basically bullying them into being friends, right? Like you have that, the whole concept of you have a school bully, but he has his posse with him, and really the bully, the friends, right, the entourage around the bully, they don't really like him, but they are afraid of him, right? And they also get certain benefits from being friends with him, but in all actuality, they don't really like him. And when the time presents itself, right, due to whatever circumstances happen, those that are closest to him will they turn on him because he's not an actual good friend, right? And speaking of that, when you go into the book of Revelation, the 18th chapter, it tells you that these kings, right, which represents the various kingdoms of the earth, they had a relationship with Babylon, right, because of the riches, as it says here, Revelation 18 verse 3. It says, for all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, right? And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Okay, so that is the reason why these nations are mainly allied with America. Okay, because of the consumerism that America, produces for these countries, right? The military backing that America gives, to these countries, but it's not as if they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart, right? It's really a coercion, right? And it's a, we'll do these things for you, but you got to drink, of our philosophies, of our way of doing business, of our way of living. And that is why it says in the book of Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, that, yeah, these nations have drunk, but they became mad, right? Jeremiah 51 verse 7. Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. See? So the Lord set up Babylon the Great, just like how he set up, ancient Babylon, just like how he set up, the Purs and the Medes, right? He told, scripture says that Cyrus was anointed, right, by the Lord to do what he did. All right. Proverbs, the 21st chapter, tells you that the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. See? Also, also in the Daniel, the 4th chapter, let me pull that up real quick as well. It speaks about how the Lord dealeth in the kingdoms of men. And when you have this understanding, right, and this knowledge, which you only get by coming into the sanctuary of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, then you know that, all of these things that are happening on the earth is all predestined and predetermined, by the will of the Lord. And as it says in Isaiah, that he will do his counsel, right? And no one, will be able to stop, right, to stay his hand. You see, Daniel chapter 4, verse 12, it says, this matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know. See, so this this is purposely being done, right? And the Lord sets up the holy ones, right, his saints, right, the prophets, okay, so that the living, those that are on the earth, right, may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. All right. This is why the prophet's message is to be, acknowledged. Right. But we know that it's only going to be acknowledged by those that are, the sheep of Yahushai. Right. As the Lord said, my sheep hear my voice. OK, the Lord told Ezra, right, or shall I say Ezekiel rather, hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. So the warning that we are giving is not of our own, thoughts, right? It's not of our own ideas, but rather it was put into us via the Holy Spirit, right? By Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. So and the purpose is to do what? That the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the bases of men. All right. So the Lord is the one who decides who rules, who decides who is going to have dominion at what particular time. Right. And he can even set up, which he has done, which is what we're living in right now, the basis of men's kingdom, which the basis of men would be Esau, Edom, right? Which is why he is known as the serpent, right? And in the scripture, it tells you, right, he shall dwell on his belly, right? And he shall eat the dust of the ground, meaning that he is going to be the lowest, right? His way of life and his way of society will be the lowest out of all the beasts of the field, right? Which the beasts represent the other different nations, you see. It says basis, lowliest of station. See? So although they have, this glitz and glamour, which is all a facade, right? As it says, Yahushua spoke about the wicked Pharisees, how outwardly, right, they appear beautiful, but inwardly they are full of dead man's bones. That is similarly and really even to a more extreme level of Esau, right, and his way of ruling, okay, because he does this by all of an illusion and deception, right? He is the father of lies, right, and has the power of lying wonders. So although his kingdom, and you can clearly see the cracks in it, you can clearly see the issues, the problems, and that's, as the scripture says, when the wicked are in authority, the people mourn. Right. You got all types of people mourning. Right. All nations, even his own people, mourn and lament and complain. All right. And within, his kingdom. All right. A matter of fact, even amongst Esau's own Trump's own administration. Right. You have, certain people getting fired. Right. Like Gabbard, Kristi Noem. I think Kristi Noem got fired recently, You had this other guy just recently stepped down, which was the I think I have it pulled up here somewhere. Yeah. Nope, that's not it. Yeah, which was the, where is it at? Salakia. Yeah, here we go. The director of national counterterrorism, Joe Kent, has resigned over the Iran war. So somebody that was put into a position by Trump, right? It's not like this guy came from a previous administration. He was put into this position by Trump and he resigned, right? And at a time during a war where we've already had, talks of potential sleeper cells. Trump himself, made mention that he knows that there are sleeper cells, in America, right? Although he said we're watching them, right? And he blames the previous administration for them being here. But the question would be, if you know they're here, why wouldn't you do anything about it, right? And this is once again all of the smoke and mirrors and the dis and misinformation, right? All of the lies, right? This is why you have to have the spirit of discernment, right? Which you only get via the Holy Spirit to be able to spiritually decipher, right? Between, or should I say through the lies and the deception. But this guy says, quote, "I cannot support the war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from the 48ers, once again, and its powerful American lobby." See? So here it is. At the end of Esau's world, you're seeing Satan's house becoming more and more divided, right? And you're seeing not only that, but the evil eye, as the scripture says, that the Lord was going to turn, the curses that befell upon us, upon our enemies. So you're now seeing this evil eye, right? This Edomite on Edomite hatred becoming more and more overt. And Amalek, right, which is the chief of the nations, they're becoming more and more despised even amongst their own nation of people. And that's only going to continue as this war, right, and Esau's age continues to collapse, and this devil, becomes less and less. His ability to become, his ability to be more and more deceptive, rather, his ability to be deceptive, Salakia, becomes less and less effective, right, as it says in the book of Second Ezra. Let me get that. Second Ezra chapter 6. Second Ezra chapter 6, straight to the point, verse 27, it says, "For evil shall be put out." And who is the chief producer of evil? Esau, Edom, the wicked. Remember, as it says in the book of Maccabees, that when after Alexander the Greek died and his kingdom was divided between his four generals, that evils, right, multiplied in the earth. All right. You know what? Might as well just get it. Okay. Because there is a man of sin that the scriptures clearly identifies, right? And it was going to be in this man's kingdom, right? It was going to be during his rulership, his age, that the end was going to come. See, this is why the Lord gave, that vision, that dream to Nebuchadnezzar, and had Daniel interpret it, right? And then also Daniel received the vision of the four beasts, all right? Then out of the fourth beast came that little horn. See, all of these things, the visions that John the Revelator saw of the two beasts, one coming out of the sea and the other one coming out of the land, right? And that second beast was going to exercise all of the power of the first beast. All of these things were visions of this time, of this age, right? And it showcases what needs to happen, what will happen in order for this age to end, the age of wickedness to end, in order for evil to be completely put out. But going right here in First Maccabees 1 verse 9, it says, I'll read at 7. "So Alexander reigned for 12 years and then died, and his servants bared rule, everyone in his place, right? And his servants, meaning his four generals, which we, go into when we speak about the four generals, which I think is Daniel's the 8th chapter speaks about those as well, right? Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Cassander, right? So those are the four generals, it says, and those are the servants that bared rule everyone in his place, because they all got different regions, right? It says, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay, evils were multiplied in the earth once the Greeks, right, which were nothing more than Edomites that just took on the Greek name, right, because they weren't the original Greeks. The original Greeks are the sons of Japhet, right? Esau, Edom, is the originator of the what is known today as so-called white people, which that term, as the Elder Makama was going to, didn't exist prior to, was that 1681, right? So it's not a ancient term, all right? That was just a part of Esau's deception, right? Deceiving the nations by changing names and landmarks and things of that nature. But the point is, it says evils was multiplied on the earth as they continue to have dominance. But in the end, as we know, as it says in the same chapter, that Esau is the end of the world. In the same chapter, 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, right? Esau is the end of the world. And what happens with that? For evil shall be put out and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome. See? And that corruption is a part of why these nations are mad, right? Going back to that golden cup that Babylon has, basically forced the earth to drink, right? And made them drunken. And it made them corrupt. Okay? It says there, Jeremiah 51 verse 7, Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, right? Because they wanted to live deliciously. They wanted to partake, have a seat at the Edomite table, right? The Edomite table of his kingdom, right? Because as we read, the Lord set up the basis of man to rule. So we're living in Esau's kingdom, and these nations, these heathen nations, wanted a piece of that, right? And in order to have a piece of that, they had to drink of the wine. And that wine, as we read in Revelation 18, was full of fornication, immoralities, right? A perverse and wicked way of living. Okay. Having, evil thought to be good and good thought to be evil. And we can go down a list of, how that is, deemed, or shall I say how that is played out. But you just look at your everyday life and you just see the things that are promoted, right? And the things that are accepted here. And you can tell and you can see how wicked it is, right? But it says, the nations have drunk of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad, right? And that word mad going into what? They're out of their mind, right? They're not in a proper state of mind. Okay. Like a madman or somebody that is, clinically insane, as they will call it. They're not in their right state of mind. You see? So going back to 2nd Ezra 6, let me go. Yeah. 2nd Ezra 6, verse 28, it says, as for faith, it shall flourish, corruption shall be overcome, and the truth, which hath been so long without fruit, shall be declared. Right. And that is now, breaking down the strongholds of this devil, of his kingdom. Right. Because the truth is the kryptonite to the lies. Right. And once you know the truth, your lies they unravel. All right. And this is why you're seeing Esau kingdom falling so quickly. All right. A lie is very weak. All right. A lie is not a strong foundation. So once you expose the lie, right, and tell the truth, that becomes a house of cards. And this is what's happening amongst Esau and his kingdom. And this is why you have, things like this taking place where people that Trump thought was going to be, beneficial to his administration is actually now leaving it. And they're saying it's because of what? Because of the 48ers, Amalek, one of the tribes, right? The first of the nations of Esau, right? And that is only going to, like I said, that's only going to become more and more apparent as Esau's kingdom, continues to crumble. So yeah, let me get rid of that. So he says that, then Trump says resignation of U.S. intel officer, which is that same guy, Joe Kent, official over Iran, a good thing, Trump says. So of course he's going to say that, right? Of course. You see, he's out of his effing mind. Everyone but MAGA blowhards have Trump fatigue. Yeah, and even MAGA, people are, speaking out against Trump in this war, right? Because they thought, right, they were deceived, deluded into thinking that Trump was going to, make America first, right? It was going to be American exceptionalism. But really what Trump is doing is making America is America isolationism based off of, them being, drawn to the hip by the 48ers, which the world sees that those 48ers are, they're out of their goddamn mind, man. See, and this is a real picture. All right. So that's causing these American Edomites to have a disdain, right? And, for the Trump administration, even the MAGA supporters, because they're seeing their tax dollars are going toward helping the 48ers. Their boys and girls, as they love to say it, are being sent to a war, to fight for another country, not for their own protection. Like how that guy said, that Iran didn't pose any imminent threat to America and Americans, but rather it posed a threat to the 48ers, which the 48ers, Bibi, been saying for the past 30 something years, right? He'll come out with his little PowerPoint or his cardboard and show the red line where the Iranians were as it pertains to making a nuclear bomb. And it was always right under the red line. For 30 years, they've been saying, Iran is a week away from making a nuclear bomb. And they finally got the right guy at the right time, into the right position, a.k.a. Donald D. Nero 47, to acquiesce and to do their bidding for them. Whether it be because they, got information on them when it comes to the Epsteins, which that is probably right the case. But they blackmailed him, or should I say white-mailed him into doing what they want him to do, because it's always about, as Mayor Amschel Bauer said, give me control of a nation's money. I care not who make the laws. Right. So Salakia. So yeah, he says that, but what is going to be the fallout for this? Okay, because we see that there's something brewing up in behind the curtains when it comes to this whole so-called potential T attacks and the implications of that, and who's may be behind it and what may happen, X, Y, and Z. And you had this individual here say, which they're saying this guy Ali Larijani, they're saying that they just killed him, right? He was an Iranian diplomat or official, but it says top, and this came out on Sunday. If I believe he said this on Sunday, because today's Tuesday. Yeah, so the 15th this came out. Today's the 17th. It says Trump Iranian official says members of Epstein's network planning false FLAG attack similar to 911 to blame Tehran, right, which is Iran. It says Ali Larijani said Iran fundamentally opposes such T schemes and has no war with American people. So it's this guy. And like I said, today they just came out, Israeli officials came out and said they deleted him, right? So he says this on Sunday, and then they delete him 2 days later because they probably saying, "Hey, nah, you exposing our plans." But this is something that people are already. This is already in the talks. See, it's already in the talks. But the thing is, Esau doesn't have any different moves. He doesn't have any different way of doing things. Remember, he's the basis of man. He doesn't. Yeah, although he is deceptive and he is a master of lies, he still has the same type of playbook. Okay, so this is why, and it's all about enchantments. This is why the scripture says in Isaiah 47 to stand now with thine enchantments, which you have labored from a youth. If so, be as thou mayest profit. If so, be thou mayest prevail. Okay. So the same type of event, as it says, similar. Iran's top national security official, Ali, claimed on Sunday that members of Epstein networks are planning a false FLAG attack similar to 9/11 to blame Tehran for it. Larijani was likely referring to members of the Trump administration, considering him and other government officials have appeared in the files. Of course, all of those individuals that are, talking heads in Trump administration, one way or another, they've appeared in those files. Are associates or been associated with, the Epsteiners, right? And that means more than likely the 48ers have some dirt, have something to whitemail them and make them oblige to what they want to do. And even if they may not agree to it or want it particularly to happen, their names, right, and what they have done over there, and it's not just them, it's all a majority, right? I'll say 95%. And I'm being generous, honestly. I'll say 99.9% of these Edomites that are in positions of authority got some type of nasty dirt, right, on them, right? And at the very least, they all are, involved in, satanic rituals at one way, shape, or form. Because we know that, as they showed you in that movie Eyes Wide Shut, that the elites, right, of the world, they're into satanic rituals, right? It says in a social media publication, Larijani said, all right, I just read that. So this is what he says here. I've heard, this is the tweet, and this, like I said, this guy, they just claimed that he just got killed today. I've heard that the remaining members of Epstein's network have devised a conspiracy to create an incident similar to 9/11 and blame Iran for it. Iran fundamentally opposes such schemes and has no war with the American people. Right? Remember, they said that ABC came out with that article saying that there is a potential Iranian drones may strike California. Okay. And then, not to mention, you have all of this going on with the TSA and the airports, which they have. There's been analysts and experts saying that this can, cause more of a security threat because you have the TSA workers calling out. All right, or they got fatigue and working because they're working and not getting paid, and you're seeing the fallout because of that. Right, these crazy ass 3-hour lines, going all the way out into the outside of the airport. Right, one individual said that he came on, I think it was a Fox News, and he basically said that some airports are probably going to have to start shutting down because TSA are calling out. All right, and majority of the TSA workers, the ones who are being affected the most are so-called Black Americans. So if something happened, right, like how he is saying here, and then they say, oh, it's because of the Democrats, right? Because the whole lockdown is happening. What they're saying is because the Democrats keep blocking, right, the reopening the government. They keep blocking the bill to reopen the government. And then they can say that, the TSA agents, they wasn't showing up to work, so there was a security lag or a hole. So you could blame the Democrats, and then you could blame, the Jake TSA. And Esau, Trump, his administration, right? The Edomite can try to present himself as being, guiltless in this. But the Lord sees you, right? And we also see, and a lot of people, right, really see, that if something like this does happen, that it was an inside job. Just like how they see about the 911. Yeah, it took a few years, right? But now you're at the age of social media and the age of, people not trusting their government, as it says in 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, having no regard for their kings nor princes. It could happen immediately, right? And the Lord is bringing you down, right? There is no more wisdom in Teman. So you would try to do something, and you try to set up some type of event and try to make it seem like it's somebody else. But the Lord throw a curveball in there, then you get exposed. That, it was actually, read 144 replies. Call like how about Shemal Shah, just saw that, right? So you get exposed as, it was really you. So at what point, then what are you going to do at that point? You see? Because they're just moving very, very sloppy right now. And this is probably why you had that individual resign, because he sees how things is moving. He's a director of the counterterrorism, right, agency. So the fact that he resigned clearly shows that it was what they call it, irreconcilable differences, right? And while this is going on, you got Bibi over here trying to do videos to prove that he's alive. Right? It says Netanyahu still trying to prove that he's alive. Okay? This is like the third or fourth video that he did. And he got to show fingers, right? And once again, third or fourth video that was presented, right? Because this could all just be AI, right? We know we're living in that time of deception and deep fake and all of those things. But regardless, the fact that, let's say this is real, right? That he is really doing these videos. You're in the middle of a damn war. Your state, right, is getting bombed left and right, and you're over here trying to prove that you're alive by showing your fingers, doing handshakes, right? Doing videos, talking to people, taking pictures. Like, come on, man. This is the devil. This is the man of sin. And look at what people say. Gronk, verify this video. AI, right? Netanyahu making it clear he's alive, alert, and focused on stopping. That's what he's focused on. It's not like these people are stupid, man. Which a lot of these bots, right? A lot of these things, these type of it came out. A lot of these type of accounts are actually coming from not America, right? They're coming from the Middle East or North Africa. Right, but they portray themselves to be actual. Let's just go to his. Let's see where it says he could possibly be from America, but they portray themselves to be American. Right. Okay. So it says account based in the United States. All right. But yeah, there was that came out a few months ago that a lot of these accounts were based in Israel or based in Morocco or. They weren't based in America, although they were American accounts. But regardless, right, him doing this is just more proof. Yes, I'm alive.
Mike. Hey. Prime Minister, I wanted you to know the president asked me to come and make sure you were okay.
Yes, Mike. Yes, I'm alive.
I checked that, and I'm happy to see that. But he wanted to make sure because... you guys get along too well.
I know, and we shake hands with 5 fingers in each hand. But I have to tell you, I'm alive, but I have this card.
Oh.
And, don't read it. So, it's a punch card.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I erased 2 names on the punch cards, and you see how many more to go on this batch.
You know what the good news is? My name is not on the punch card.
Your name is on the list of the good guys.
Thank you.
And And what the president, the U.S. forces are doing is incredible. We're very proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with them.
Yeah, so completely through, man. You guys are corny. You guys are played out. Nobody believes you, right? And this is why you're doing this. Nobody believes you. And that's how much of a liar you are. People can't even believe that you're alive. They can't even believe that you're alive. That's how much you are a liar Esau Edom is, man. Okay? But, hey, it don't matter if you're alive or dead, because when Yahweh Shai come, you're going to be raised up. You're going to be alive to see Yahweh Shai. That's for sure. All right? Because he got the keys to death and hell. So it don't matter if you're alive or dead right now, because the prophecies are going to go on the same way. You know, and they're talking about, you know, they got a bunch of names that they're scratching off, you know, trying to, because their plan is they want to do a regime change. That's what the 48ers want. And the U.S. intelligence already said that they don't think that's possible, especially without doing boots on the ground. But this is why they, you know, that talk is in the atmosphere of them putting boots on the ground. That's only going toward what? More prophecy, right? Drawing the least of the flock, drawing them out. So no matter what happens, right, the will of the Lord is going to stand. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Oh, here you had the Israeli Channel 12 on an Israeli official says, we have plans to attack targets in Iran during the next 6 weeks. Now, remember, when this whole thing started, they said first it's going to be 4 days. Then they said 4 weeks, right? Then they said, oh, you know, it could be between 4 to 6 weeks. Then you had certain military intelligent, you know, commanders and officials say that, yeah, based off of the objectives that they're looking to do, this could last all the way till September, right? That was coming from, you know, military leaders, right? So Trump keeps saying, oh, yeah, it's only going to be 4 weeks, 4 weeks. Well, it's already been 2 weeks. It's already been past 2 weeks. OK, it's already been past 2 weeks. We're coming up on 3 weeks come Saturday. But here today, this guy says that they have plans to attack Iran during the next 6 weeks. So if you add 3 weeks plus these extra 6 weeks, that's already 9 weeks. So why is Trump going around saying, yeah, the war is about to be over? That's all propaganda. That's all them trying to manipulate the market. Right. But time is going to tell. Right. And time is not on your side. OK, time is not on your side. And it's eventually just like how they did with COVID, the vid. Oh, yeah, we need 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And then it ended up being two years. So that's the same exact play that they're doing now. But they're going to need a reason. Right. They're going to need a reason to publicly be able to commit to pushing this thing out further. Just like with the whole vid, their reason was because they kept propagating this number of people getting sick and people dying and X, Y, and Z. So they were able to keep pushing that in the media, fear mongering people to think that, you know, the curve isn't flattening and people are actually getting sicker. So they were able to push it out that long. So what would be the reason for them to be able to push this thing out, right? Which they already have the plans to push it out longer. But how are they going to persuade and present that to the government? I mean, to the people, masses of people? Well, they're going to need a reason to do that, right? And that reason can very well be some false FLAG attack. Okay, and then that would be able to say, okay, well, they did this. We need to shut down everything, and we need to go in there harder. We're going to need to put boots on the ground. We're going to need to round up, you know, anybody that is a descendant, anybody that speaks out against, you know, this war. Everybody's a suspect. All that. It's going to get crazy in here, man. It's going to get crazy out here. All right, and this is why you got to be fully rooted in this thing, because at any moment, at any time, it can flip on the switch. This one I wanted to play. So you had this guy, right? The director of
The fact
National
is that
Economic
the
Council
U.S. economy
says
is
this.
fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
But the fact is that the U.S. economy is fundamentally sound, and that if it were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much at all. It would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about, if that continued, what we would have to do about that. But that's like really the last of our concerns right now, because we're very confident that this thing is going ahead of schedule. But the fact is that.
Okay, so he's basically speaking of if the war were to be extended. So here it is, Trump saying, "Oh, the war is about to be over," but then everybody else is saying it might be extended. But he's saying what? It wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much. It would hurt consumers. Now, who are the consumers that is going to hurt? But he said, but we have to think about what we would have to do about that, right? The consumers are the everyday people, but that's really the last of our concerns right now. They're not caring about the consumer. Remember, cost of living is what life is about, right? That is what, when you live in a capitalistic society, it's all about buying and selling. It's all about consuming. So if they're saying that they're not concerned about that right now, right? It says because we are very confident that this thing is going ahead of schedule, which is a lie. They got to say that, right? But they're saying that it's going to hurt consumers. Let's see how it's going to hurt consumers. I just put this in here, right? And I said, which consumers would it hurt and how, right? Basically, I put in what he just said. He says that quote, blah, 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 right? Mid-March, as it extends conflict will primarily disrupt global energy markets, especially oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz, rather than broadly derailing the U.S. economy overall. The consumers it would hurt are everyday American householders and drivers, mainly through higher energy and fuel costs. Here's how the impact breaks down. See, everyday household, American household and drivers, which is damn near, that's every single person in America. This is going to affect. and when I say every single, I'm talking about not the elitist class, right? Talking about the everyday average American, the 99%. It's going to hurt. Higher gasoline and diesel prices, right? And remember, Iran said that the oil is going to go up to $200 a barrel eventually, if the war rages on and the Strait of Hormuz continues to be closed. Broader energy and utility cost increases. Oil prices surge, feed into higher costs of heating oil, natural gas, electricity, and transportation related goods. This raises household bills and reduces disposable income. Inflationary pressure on consumer goods. Energy is a key input cost. Higher fuel prices increases shipping and logistic expenses, which gets passed on to retail prices for groceries, manufactured goods, and air travel and other everyday items. So everything is coming apart at the seams right now. All right. It's very, very clear that this place is on its last toe. Economists have warned this could accelerate inflation, eroding purchasing power, and hitting consumer spending, a major driver of the U.S. GDP. Hassett downplays the overall economic risk by noting the conflict is ahead of schedule, expected to wrap in 4 to 6 weeks per some briefings. U.S. production remains strong. Long-term oil futures are declining in anticipation of post-war supply booms. He frames consumer pain as the main short-term downside, but a major concern compared to the war's progress and expected positive, but not a major concern compared to the war's progress and expected positive global shock. This aligns with other administration messaging, right? Everybody's in Trump administration, they're just going to just continuously repeat the same rhetoric, which is nothing but an enchantment, right? For people that want to believe, right, the false narrative, right? The cognitive dissonance. give me lies, right? Prophesied unto us smooth things, right? It says, monitoring energy prices closely, no immediate strategic petroleum release, and optimism of quick resolution, minimizing lasting damage. And that's right there. They got an optimism of quick resolution, but the Iranians said that they still got the heat for it. They still got heat for you, cuz, right? I don't know if I have posted that, but they said that they've only used, I had seen another post that they've only used 10% of their arsenal. Okay, they said that the IRGC commander said the missiles that we've been shooting at you were created decades ago. We haven't even begun to use the missiles that we created since the 12-day war last year. Okay, and then you had another individual say that they're about to teach America a lesson. So, yeah, it's not no quick resolution. It says critics and independent economists, however, highlight the risk of prolonged consumer strain if disruptions persists, and that is really where this thing is going. All right, you're not coming to a point where things are about to de-escalate and things are about to, go back to normal. It's over for that, man. As we continuously been saying through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, the trajectory of things based off of the signs of the times, based off of the word of the Lord, is more peril, right? More anguish, more confusion, more chaos, because this is how Esau Edom goes out. Okay, 2nd Ezra 16 verse 17. The beginning, Salakia, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. And people are still not being mindful. Right? They're seeing energy go up. They're seeing oil. They're seeing prices. Right? They're seeing the wars continue to escalate. Right? You're hearing of potential drafts. Right? You're hearing of potential T attacks happening. Okay? You're seeing it actually, not even just hearing about it. There's actually been certain T attacks that have already taken place, albeit it hasn't been anything massive and really destructive, but you're seeing elements of that already unfold. But yet people are not being mindful of these things. They're still going about, as the Lord said, as in the days of Noah. They're still going about as if things are going to continue as they always been. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they think themselves to be in a good case. Right? Yeah, gas did go up, but it's not too crazy right now. Right? It hasn't hit a all-time high. I believe they said that in 2022, gas, when the whole thing started with Russia and Ukraine, gas hit a all-time high. Right? And Biden went out and said it was Putin's problem. Right? So people still think themselves to be in a good case. Even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Right? Because when this actually does hit its crescendo, when it does get to the tipping point, it's going to boil over fast. Right? It's going to be like a breach of a wall. All right. Actually, let me get that. Isaiah, was that 30? Yeah, Isaiah 30, verse 13, it says, start at 12, wherefore thus saith the Holy One of Israel, because ye despise this word and trust in oppression and perverseness and stay thereon, therefore this iniquity shall be to you as a breach ready to fall, swelling out in a high wall, whose breaking cometh suddenly at an instant. See, it's going to come suddenly at an instant. It says, and he shall break it as the breaking of a potter's vessel that is broken in pieces. He shall not spare it. so that there shall not be found in the bursting of it a sure to take fire from the hearth, or to take water without of the pit. So when the Lord actually has this thing break, right, it's going to be so quick, destructive that in itself is going to cause, as it says, great confusion. People are going to be in a state of panic. Okay, because they're not being mindful of the lead up to it, right? That is why the scripture says it's going to come like a thief in the night. You see, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I ran through pretty much all of them. Yeah, and this whole thing with Iran, America saying that they don't need NATO. That's right there is going to, and something I thought about. The fact that, he asked for them and they said no, right? Let me play this real quick so you can hear it.
The nuclear dust. I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there. The other thing is...
So he's saying that NATO, they don't need NATO countries, right? So something I thought about was how Trump, said a few months ago about enacting Article 5, right? Based off of, I think he said based off of the illegal immigrants that are here. And that basically he was saying that the country was under attack. And if he enact Article 5, those NATO countries would have to come and help them according to the agreement. Now, he is saying, because he asked them to go help them open up the Strait of Hormuz, and NATO said no, right? And America can't technically enact an Article 5 based off of that, because they were the aggressors. They attacked Iran. They went over there to the Middle East and attacked Iran. But, and if or when, right, there is some attack or something that potentially happens here, all right, in the soils of America, Trump could then say, oh, well, we just got attacked. So NATO, right, we are enacting Article 5, because they enacted Article 5 when 9/11 happened, right? Although it wasn't like a attack, from, a nuclear strike or a missile or something like that. America's soil got hit, quote unquote. And they enacted an Article 5 because of that. And NATO countries went with America to fight against Iraq. So that all being said, if something happens here, Trump could potentially do that. Now, what happens if NATO says, hey, we're not coming, right, to help you, right? He said this was a test, but that doesn't mean this will be the last test. Maybe this was just the first test to see if they would just go and over there to the Middle East with just him asking. But what if something happens and he says, well, now we have the right, the right to enact Article 5, and based off of that, you have to help. And you could have them say, well, we got to do that. Or you could have them say, no, right? We're not going, because there are elements that this was a false event, that you set this up. Nonetheless, the scripture speaks about how, as it says in Obadiah 1:7, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee, and there is none understanding in him. So the men that was at peace, that were allied with you, is going to turn on you. Revelation, the 17th chapter. And we are seeing, living in those times where the Lord is working on the minds of these kings, having them all, narrowly, continuously, look upon Babylon the Great. Okay. And like I said, it's only going to take one event, something from one day to the next, that can hyperdrive this, into a downward spiral, and everybody is going to feel it. Right. It's not going to be something that you can just casually see or think about. Right. No, this is going to be at the forefront of your minds consistently, because this is the Lord's judgment that he is bringing. And nobody misses out. Nobody can ignore the Lord's judgment. All right. So With that, Lord willing, this was edifying, giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash, Shalom.